going to check. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Hi. Welcome to those who are in the room with us and also to those who are online. Hello. My name is Caroline Bowditch and I have the privilege of being the CEO at Arts Access Victoria. And it is a joy to be here with these incredible artists today to talk about Into the Hybrid, a dialogue of new works as part of Emerging Writers Festival. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and I pay respects to elders past and present. And I want to acknowledge any First Nations people that might be joining us today, either in the room or online. So thank you. The way today's panel is going to work is that we are going to experience firsthand the work of both Alex and Jenny, who join me on stage, and then we'll be having a conversation around how working in a hybrid space has influenced and changed their work. So I'm just going to introduce both of the speakers and then, begin my questions. So on the furthest away from me is Alex Crease. Alex is a writer, poet and collage artist, and average kook, as you describe yourself, living on Wanderong lands. Alex works as an online editor for Archer magazine and is the production editor, for Candle Poetry Review, Cordite. This is me without my glasses on. Thank you. She's also on the editorial committee for Sunday Journal. And Alex has this, I'm now going to just let you know some of the incredible awards that have been bestowed on Alex. Alex was awarded a Writability Fellowship in 2019 and a Wheeler Centre Hot Desk Fellowship in 2020. A sample of Alex's work was highly commended in 2019 Next Chapter Scheme, and she was shortlisted for the 2021 Cat Muscat Fellowship. In 2022, Alex was shortlisted for the inaugural Born Writers Award and the Lord Mayor's Creative Writing Award. Thank you for joining us, Alex. Amazing. And Jenny, I'm going to hand to you to introduce yourself in the way that you want to be introduced.
So I'm Jenny Hickenbotham. I've been writing all my life probably and trying to make art. I'm currently doing my PhD in fine art at OMIT with an interest in neuroscience and mental health, trauma and neurodiversity because I live with some of those issues, labels of schizophrenia, which I call hearing voices, and depression, I get a bit of depression, and trauma, complex post-traumatic stress, and autism. But I've been studying art, up till PhD level, and I'm currently been living in Western Australia for a little while. I went over there in January. I was commissioned to put on an exhibition at the Dada Gallery, which is sort of your sister, isn't it? Yeah.
In WA.
And they work particularly well. Everything they do is with people with disabilities. And I put on this work is actually part of that, is just a fragment of that show that went on there. So I'll talk more about it as we go through Caroline's questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Welcome, Jenny. It's really hard to clap while you've got a microphone. Just before we launch into having a look at your amazing work, I wondered, this is a question that I've been asking of artists recently, and that is, what fans your creative embers? What fires you? What makes you want to do what you do?
Who do you want to go first?
I don't mind.
Go on then.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I guess something that I feel is like I work a lot and there's a lot to do and everything in life feels really heavy and just all consuming, but at the same time I always just get the itch to like create something or write something. So it's not so much that there's anything in particular that like motivates me to create art or poetry or work like that. It's just kind of like I have to. It feels sort of inevitable that it's going to happen. Like I just need to, even if there's a lot else going on, or even if I step away from it for quite a while. Like I just will always come back to it. Like it's inevitable for me.
Amazing, thanks.
I suppose for me, life is my inspiration. I started being creative about 15, 20 years ago. And before that, life was sort of push, the way we have to do to work and earn $1 and pay the rent, the mortgage, whatever. And I find now I do these art classes with a teacher called Fran O'Neill who lives in Shepparton, so they're always online. And they're great. So I'm in Western Australia doing her art class from Shepparton, and she teaches the masters. So each Wednesday it's a different master, and we go back to the 14th, 15th century. And I've started making these little Persian miniatures on using Photoshop. And like, why I'm telling you that is because I find I love sitting at night now, and instead of watching TV, I'm making these miniatures, and it's really allowing myself to be creative. And I find that often that inevitable push that we learn, as children, gets in the way of my desire to be my natural instinct to be creative. And but because I've been studying, then it's something I get to push myself about. So it sort of works for me that the way I've structured my life to allow creativity to be a need or a commitment. In fact, So it's just the way I do what I need and want to do. Yeah. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So if we can, oh fabulous tech team, can we have a look at the work of Alex and Jenny?
The song of dust. I'm immersed in the dust and dirt of Australia. It skins me. Australian dust and dirt. It's in my tent, it's in my bed, it's between my toes. Australian dust, Australian dirt, it skins me. The caravaner next door tells me he's a nuisance. He's blowing dust with his motorised wand. It skins me. Let's race off to the beach for a sublime swim in Australia's clear waters. Wash the sand from our feet, it skins me. We walk in Australian deserts, bushland forests, wearing shoes to avoid dirt between our toes. It skins me. The farmer is tilling his dirt with his plough. He's working his dirt to grow his crops, make money. It skins me. Gina is blowing great gaping holes in our Australian dirt she discards after exploiting every treasure. It skins me. Like you, she sweeps her manufactured house floor, removing any dirt, any dust, any Australian earth. It skins me. She regularly wipes or pays someone to wipe dust from her home horizontals. It skins me. ridding the material home of any natural earthly connection, except what she can cultivate in her imported garden bed. It skins me. A cultured life, cultivated, systematized, like the manufactured material home. She skins it and chooses to live this fanciful construct, constantly sweeping Aussie dirt from her life. She skins it, writes songs about untouchable skies, untouchable beauties, untouchable loves. She excuses it, she denies it, she lies it, scrubs her skin in readiness, ventures from her fanciful home. She's living chicanery. Song of the Noah Arbors. Nothing trees, untrees, like nothing me's, unme's. Nothing voices, unvoices, nothing people, unpeople. Nothing trees, no trees, mallees, saltbush grasses inhabit the Nullarbor plain. The explorer John Eyre saw a treeless plain. His author Kingsley wrote a hideous anomaly, a blot on the face of nature, the sort of place one gets to in a bad, bad dream. E.A. de Lisle named the Nullarbor in 1865. The First Nations people called it Undiri, meaning the waterless. It's 1,100 kilometers from east to west, contains 390 species of plant, diverse habitats for rare animals and birds. Few people drive the Nullarbor. Most people believe the myth of a vast, dry, endless, treeless plain. I saw varied habitats across the ecosystem, reflecting the depth of soil over the ancient limestone karst. Vast, open, grassy plains, chopped up, blackened, turned soils, blue bush shrubs and swathes of stumpy mallee trees. My skin of dust, acquired while camping, my shoeless feet remind me of seasonal walking, nomadic indigenous tribes, cultivating, refreshing themselves in the underground, limestone caves and streams. Natives were removed in the 1950s before the Maralinga tests. Native people carried only essentials, took only essentials for sustenance and life. Peoples, colonizers, unvoiced, unpeopled, unlanded, unpeopled, peoples not seen. Nala abo, no trees, untrees, seed as suitable for the taking.
So we're going to see Alex's now, and then we'll have a conversation.
Sorry, I'm just giggling because mine's very sexual. So mine's not as musical as Jenny's, but I'm going to read it out loud for everyone. So for a visual description of this, it is a collage poem that I have made. It's got a image of a person in leather fetish wear, and the title of it is God Wants You to Come. And it's got in the background like some domestic things like an oven and some food and stuff like that. And I've got the text for the poem on the body of the fetish model, and I'm going to read the poem now. Sorry. Be baptized, fap-worthy for the Lord. He says, I will come in a warm apple pie, like Sexodus, Exodus, mooing meat for magic, goosebumps and Gallic blumpkins. Forsake the patriarch's taboo tongue, gisnous career of the Holy Spirit. Isn't it wonderful to lobotomize Cupid and abort the cream of his Eurodorks? Pray for cray-cray upon the altar in your bosoms. We call on the name of the froggy fucktress who maketh a psalm or a cup of rum, naughty niceties in her blood garden. Thank wank that our God is a Kleenex wasting killjoy. Let heaven hand jive as hell LOLs.
Amazing. Such distinctly different pieces. And it's always joyous to put pieces together that you kind of go, they're really different from each other. I'm really interested in how you generated these two and where they came from.
On my videos, my work?
Yeah, for both of them, yeah.
Okay. Will I start then? Yes. Okay, yeah, so I travelled, I have to tell a story, okay? So I was living in Gisborne, in just out near Sunbury, and I got this commission to make the works for Dada, and I decided to drive across and take my dogs and pack up. And my house that I was living in was being sold, so, you know, I would just pack everything up and get out of there and just go off and have an adventure. And so as I drove across, I wrote 8 songs, and that's 2 of the 8. And you know, and talk back to your first question, how do you get these creative, you know, how do I get the words for the songs, or and I'm doing my PhD, so this is a practice for my chapter on how I write, but how I write these songs. But quite often as I'm driving along, I'll think of the topic or as I'm having a drink of cider at night, and watching the stars and all the satellites. One night I saw 23 satellites go past, and they just come to me. Sometimes I feel like, it's just a muse, because sometimes the whole song comes to me and I just jot it down in my notes on my phone or something, and or even I just can keep them in my head, as long as, I can keep them in my head and then write it down on my laptop the next morning, or, sometimes I forget them, but, what's gone is gone.
And Jenny, so you captured the images, you obviously wrote the songs and the music?
No, so what happened then, I got to WA, and Joel Stern had given me the name of Annika Moses, and she also knew the Gallery Dada. She worked with him, so she recorded me singing them into her wardrobe. That's how she recorded. So and then she was too busy, so she got her friend Jane Stark to overdub with the music, which I hadn't worked like that before. It was all a wilderness to me, really, as it happened along, those steps going along to getting the songs done. And then, yes, I spent a good 5 weeks making the videos and putting them together. So that's how it all came together. And then the gallery set them up on 8 iPads, but then one iPad fell off, so then we put in 2 big TVs. So I joined them into 2. Now they exist as 2 part 1 and part 2, 4 songs on part A and part 1 and 4 songs on part 2. That's how they'll exist as a piece of work. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, where did that amazing image come from, and those words?
Thank you. So I love making collages and I love writing poetry, and something that I really enjoy about collage is that you can put things together that were never intended to be together and just kind of create your own monstrosity. So with that particular piece, I had some porn magazines, and I also had a very odd magazine that I found at the op shop that was specific kind of religious magazine that was all about like it was really misogynistic. It was about like why women's purpose is to like have children. So I was like, this is really cooked, so I'm gonna get it and then just kind of corrupt it a little bit, like use it for something that it was never, like the creator of that magazine would not want it used for this purpose. So then I just start kind of having a play around with the image, and I sort of cut out like interesting words from like multiple different sources. So like in this case it was the porn magazine, which has some like very funny kind of like articles and paragraphs and stuff like that, and then the religious magazine, and just sort of finding out like if I can build some sort of narrative or like some themes, and yeah, the theme of that one was calm, so it's
What else?
That's great. And now it makes so much sense that there's the cooking, like the cooker is behind the latex covered woman. Amazing. How long have you both been working in this way? Jenny, have you been a digital artist for a long time, or is this a new
No, so what happened
for you?
When I started getting into art, I started in painting, of course, because what else, what is art but painting to most people? And then at uni, in the first year, in 2017, when I did my first year at RMIT, I was still hearing voices to quite a unmanageable degree, and I'd find that I'd have people's voices in my head that was unintentional. Like, for instance, I connected with the painting, the course coordinator who happened to be the lead painting teacher, and I would have her voice, and it disturbed my presentations. And one day I presented a game that I'd made called Deja Vu All Over Again, because it was about mental health. So you know how our mental health journeys just go deja vu all over again. And anyway, I had to present it to the group, about eight students, and I had my camera set up, and I was intending that they would play the game for 10 minutes, and she said, I hate board games. so of course they didn't play it, but it was all around this voice. I'd had her voice in my head and I'd sabotaged the thing. So anyway, it's just this is the way my brain works. Anyway, she read my cards. It was a bit of a copy of Monopoly. I had the good days and the bad day cards. And she said, they were brilliant, the scenarios on the cards and so on. So anyway, but what happened, long story short, sorry. Instead of doing painting, I chose moving image as a subject. And then the next year I chose sound, because I had to have sound to go with my moving image. And then in honours year, I wanted to do a project on singing, on the songs that my father used to play. He played all these songs like about women who were naughty and got pregnant and had to wait 10 years for their lover to come home from the ocean, and all these crazy songs about women, and how they gave their lives for men. And so I wanted to write something about my father and his music and choices. But the teacher, Michaela Dwyer, everyone would know Michaela, she's a brilliant sculptress and artist. She said to me, well, you'll have to sing the songs because otherwise it's copyright. So I started singing songs, and then I started writing my own songs, and that's only since 2020. So yeah, that's how all that got done. I just wanted to do something and I'd have a go. I had a singing teacher for about 18 months, or a teacher. I didn't, I was so wanting to do everything, that we didn't stick with one thing. I was all over the place. Yeah, anyway.
And Alex, your practice is broad. How did you start putting together work like this?
I guess I've always written things. I really started collaging a lot as out of an arts therapy practice, and then I really enjoyed it, so I was trying to take that skill a bit more seriously, or not just treat it like because it's related to my mental health or because it's good for my mental health, it doesn't deserve to be seen. So I'm trying to share it a bit more. And then because I like writing, it kind of naturally made sense to try to combine those two things. And I think something that's interesting is the way that I make a non-collage poem. So the way that I write a poem is quite similar to the way that I would make a collage, where I rarely sit down and write an entire poem just off the top of my head. Often it takes months and months of me kind of collecting little scraps of thoughts and then sort of piecing them together in a way that makes sense to me. And obviously it's similar with collage and collage poetry. So there's just kind of, I guess, a natural overlap with those two practices for me.
We have seen the rise of the hybrid space more in the last few years for very obvious reasons. But why is the hybrid space important? Why is it important to work in these ways to make digital work, to both of you?
as I said, I went into it because it was something I knew nothing about, and I felt that it would be good for me to know, even as an older person. But I suppose, I mean, you're saying it's obvious, and along with obvious, it's a vacuum, isn't it? It's an empty space that needs to be filled, and so it's going to take people. I remember seeing some of these works at university and asking the teacher, well, but how do you make money? How do you? And they just didn't answer like that. Money is not an issue at university. But, how you do make money is you apply for commissions and you keep applying for grants and residencies and that sort of thing. And because, well, I've not sold any of my video works or any of my hybrid works, these works that I've been making. But I was shortlisted in another work that was presented at Blindside Gallery last April. It was shortlisted in the Incinerator Gallery's Art for Social Change. And if I'd won that, then there's some money, But I think it's important to tackle these new new means of making art, and because if we don't go with the new language, or calling it a language, or expression, creative options, someone else will. But I don't know, it just works for me, telling my stories, video and song. I don't know, I just got into it. It works for me. And I used to think when I was in undergraduate, most artists seem to find a practice and they stick with it. Well, finally I've found the thing that I'm going to stick with, which is the songwriting. But it took me a lot of years before I got there, thinking, oh, what am I going to stick with? Or I don't think I'll ever stick with anything. I'll just be fragmented all over the place, But yeah, I like it, and it's a lot of attention to detail, using your computer. If you don't like using your computer, then don't bother. Yeah, it's a lot of time on the computer. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Alex?
Yes, sorry. Could you please repeat the
Yeah,
question?
of course.
Thank you.
Why are digital and hybrid spaces important?
I think something that's important is digital space is a means to connect with a wider audience, and also a new way for people to access art in different ways. Like even just at this particular event now, like I know we've got a lot of people on the live stream, and a nice intimate gathering in person, and the people online can enjoy these works as much as the people who are able to show up to a space in person. And I think that's really important to me because for one thing, like going out into spaces, like going to an art gallery or an art installation isn't accessible to everyone. And it's also like, you can reach, I guess, more of a niche audience as well with sharing your work in a digital space, because like, for example, with the collage poem that I've shared today, no one's going to hang that in a gallery, and that's okay because it's really cooked. But it's like, people are still able to enjoy that work in some capacity, and it doesn't have to be, I guess, like gate-kept by like an institution or something like that. So yeah, I find digital space can be accessible both as an artist and also somebody wanting to access art and engage with art and see what people are doing.
Can I just add something? Think about COVID without technology, would have been. But COVID really worked for me because I was able to work from home. And I remember the first day I went into uni and had to sit in a room. I was just terrified, because I'm different, and to most of those students, not least my age. And COVID was great because I got my confidence, you know, by going to classes online, and I really gained a lot by actually being able to engage online for a couple of years, and I got a lot of confidence, and you know, just being at home, studying, and actually that year I did my honours. I got the Dean's Award. I worked so bloody hard that I got the Dean's Award for excellence that year. So, you know, it worked for me, and, you know, digital is fantastic, I think, and it does exactly what you're saying, opens access for people, you know, and for me it really worked really well, because from there I was able to go out and be confident and enjoy what I was doing, yeah.
Thanks. And Alex, I wouldn't be so sure that a gallery wouldn't want to hang that on their wall, because I think there's some out there that might just want to do that. As my fabulous colleague Fiona Toomey, who's in the room, hi Fiona, once said, the online space doesn't have those gatekeepers, so it's available to anyone essentially that wants to put themselves forward in that space, and I think it's very much a space that we can occupy. I suppose in occupying...
Well, sorry, but it does if you want to get paid. It still has gatekeepers if you want. Oh, unless you go on TikTok, but even that doesn't really pay, does it? I mean, there's flow-ons which might get you work in other areas or different things, but...
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
Still can be hard.
Yeah.
To get yourself into a healthy financial position.
Yeah. Given that we have talked about how accessible in a way that space can be to artists and to audiences, how is the thought of access impacting, or how are you being able to creatively use that within your work so that it's available to a wider audience?
Well, I don't really do that, you know. See, I've come up through the university, and my mentor in my music and Joel Stern, I don't know if anyone knows him, he was with Liquid Architecture when I met him, and I won, in that year, I won the graduate RMIT Liquid Architecture Graduate Prize for Sound Art, believe it or not. And so that's how I got to really know Joel. I did an internship subject with Liquid Architecture, and he helped me record a lot of my songs. And so he's an academic now. He's at RMIT as a postdoctoral research fellow. And yeah, I've been in that space where things are measured and valued, you know, and I'm not necessarily in the community space where you're really always putting your work out. I'm trying, like these videos are not accessible. If you just look up YouTube, you won't get them because you don't, I've been taught, you don't make them publicly accessible until you get paid for them, you know. And that's how people get paid for their digital works in the end, you know. If you don't do that, you never get paid. But then it's a lottery to be getting paid. Like I haven't been paid, apart from the money I got from data to make them, I haven't been paid anything. Yeah, I mean, getting a little bit of money today for doing this, but yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the captions that you chose to put in your films? Yeah,
so Data insisted on captions actually, and for the video we also played in that space, that gallery space, the work from Blindside, and we had captions put into that especially. They paid for that. I put the captions on these because Premiere Pro now, if you get the 2023 version, it very easily puts the captions on for you. So it wasn't that hard. I just had to upgrade my software, and that didn't. Because I'm a student, I get Adobe very cheap, or free even. So I don't ever want to graduate.
That's why you're doing a PhD, Jenny. He goes by ages. Alex, can you talk a bit about how access is impacting on the work that you're making?
Yes. So I was thinking about something you said when we were in the green room about the assumption that people with disabilities have like some innate knowledge of accessibility, and that's certainly not true, especially given that the category of disability is so broad, and like what's accessible to one person is not accessible to another, and like there are lots of different considerations that go into accessibility. So it can feel quite intimidating, like knowing where to start with making something accessible. And I think something that is really important is just trying. And like I think about, you know, I post my artwork on my Instagram or stuff like that, and trying to get into those good habits of like writing a visual description of the image, and sort of like opening yourself up to some criticism around accessibility, like sort of being available to people, being like giving feedback around what you could maybe be doing better. So it's like I write my visual descriptions and they're probably not perfect, but I'm trying, and the more that I do them, the better I'll get at them, and the more I'm kind of putting it out there, and including things like a visual description, or like if I'm publishing a poem, including like a audio clip of the poem, the more feedback I can get around if that helps people's access and like what I can be doing better. So I guess trying to just implement some small changes that you know can make things accessible to a wider audience, knowing that you're not going to do it perfectly, but like the commitment to accessibility is really important in my opinion.
Amazing, thank you. What does the digital space offer you that other spaces haven't or aren't?
You can tell your story and connect with people through various senses. So your sound, your hearing, your visuals. You know, obviously you're not getting any taste, but you can suggest taste. And touch. You can suggest touch through video as well. You know, I mean, yours is very quite. You know, you want to touch that word. You know, and you can sort of in thinking you might do that. You can actually get a sensation of what that's going to feel like, So yeah, I think digital it offers a more complex. I mean, I love looking at paintings and sculptures, and I go to galleries often because I just love looking at these things. But and often actually in a gallery, I will walk past the video because you really have to invest time in a video. So I do actually. I try and make myself go and sit and just watch, because I know that's my work, and so I do that. But I'm conscious that the impulse is it's going to take too long, and I'll have to invest too much time, and I'll just walk past. Yeah, but yeah.
That's a great reflection. I was in a gallery the other day and there was a 74-minute film and I was just like, I just can't do it. But I watched a bit of it and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Alex, for you, what is the digital space offering that other art forms might not be?
I think something that's really important to me is like a sense of play and like playfulness, especially like I guess like I feel like children are often encouraged to sort of dabble with different things, whereas as an adult there's kind of this expectation of like choose your lane of like the thing that you're good at and just stick there. And I think that it does benefit me to not pigeonhole myself as like I'm just a poet or I'm just an editor or I'm just this. Like I am an artist, and like I am a poet and I am a writer, and I want to be open to whatever monstrosity I can create next, and like what kind of sense of playfulness I can bring with my work. And I think it's important to keep that those options open.
Just put something more on walking past those little spaces in the gallery. They're quite often in little specially built rooms, and they can be quite claustrophobic and scary for people who've been trapped in different things. So that's probably another reason why I'd have to encourage myself.
Yeah. It was interesting that the space where the film was showing was full of bean bags, which felt like a very lovely invitation to anyone that might need a quiet space, but definitely wasn't low sensory, because I was in there with about 25 school children who were respectfully watching. But it was interesting. How has this evolved your work? How has this digital medium kind of evolved your work, and what do you think might happen next?
Actually, it's evolved my work immensely. I remember the first subjects I did at uni with Arlo Mountford. He was a beautiful person, a young dad. He just accepted me as a person interested in art, and I've made lots of videos, and I started by making videos about myself. And I went back to Camberwell, where as an 8-year-old I was assaulted as a child walking through the park there. I wasn't physically hurt, but I was held and attempted to, and anyway, I went back there, and I actually parked my car where our house had been demolished. A whole new thing had been built there, and I walked down the street, and I made the video through the school, through the park, through the school, back up, and I looked, and I sat onto the wall where I'd sat as a child, because I was always very lonely and isolated, in school situations, and looked up, and there was the Catholic Church, where I thought I'd seen this guy, weeks later, standing on this cliff face, this hill thing, with his coat flapping in the breeze. And actually, I looked up this day when I was making the video, and there was the Mary on the top of the Catholic Church. So I thought, well, there you go. I must have been bloody, totally off my head, going through psychosis, as an 8-year-old, and. And I've made then I made 3 videos called Connection, because I'm always into my mental health and always reading about health, and connection, of course, is such an important aspect of health and well-being and being a happy, healthy person in this world. And I made 3 videos that sort of connected, and I used them as my graduate piece for the 3rd year. And they were me essentially dancing to music in my lounge room, And then the second one was my cousin was there, and I said, "Will you be in this video and talk to me?" And I turned the video. I said, "I'm turning it on." I turned it on, but he stayed in the kitchen, and I was in the lounge room, and it ended up being this video of me talking to myself, which was good, because I was trying to get around hearing voices, and because when I was dancing in the other clip, I overdubbed it with voices like "you slut" and you wanted it, and those things that perpetrators or people say to you when they don't want to be guilty themselves, and I've used the medium of video in many different ways. Adding the songs is the most recent, and you can see a lot of my videos on my channels. It's just jennyhickenbotham.info, and there's a few of them there, or my YouTube channel as well. So I've been doing them for, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, something like that.
I'm going to get you to plug things in a little minute.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Alex, how has it evolved your work, and what happens next?
I think one way that it's evolved my work is accepting failure and as a part of like experimentation, because I should note that what I shared today wasn't the only thing I worked on for this event, but some things just didn't come together in time, and that just happens. Like, it doesn't mean that it's all lost or it's not going to emerge in some form at some point in time, but like I can be a bit rigid sometimes, and it's important for me to remember that like part of these like experimental processes is failing, or like perceived failure, or just having to work things out as you go. And yeah, I think in terms of what's next, like I guess I don't want to put any limits on that, especially because like I know in my work as an editor, like I have some basic coding skills and stuff like that. So I am quite interested in doing a bit more coding and like creating images purely in the digital space. Not to put anyone on the spot, but someone we've got in the audience who is a bit of a digital inspiration is Jenny Headley, whose poetry is amazing, and she does a lot of work in this kind of form. And I think, yeah, it's just really cool. So like obviously I want to keep doing collages and keep writing poems and doing what I'm doing, but yeah, just thinking about ways to expand and like new things to take inspiration from, I guess. Yeah. Sorry, Jenny.
Be adored, it's great. So Jenny, you're not just here for this talk today, you have other things happening this evening.
Yeah. The other event I'm in at Emerging Writers Festival is tomorrow night at Queen Vic Women's Centre, but I think it's booked out. But I'm just reading a poem and singing a song there. But tonight I'm playing my songs. If anyone wants to come and listen to some songs with some friends, one's a double bass player, sax player, and a guitar player, and we'll be at the Hub, at the Sleepless Festival Hub, which is at 170 Nicholson Street in Footscray, from 7 till 9. And it's just pay, you know, if you want to pay something you can, if you don't want to pay anything you just come in and enjoy yourself. And I'm doing it again on Friday night at the same venue, 170 Nicholson Street in Footscray, with Joel Stone, who's going to play his little synthesizer, Dale Gorfinkel, who's got an Islamic drum, guitar, can't remember now, and Mish Sizaleki Hidi, and he does percussion. And that's going to be, yeah, both nights are going to be really fun. Those guys, they all just improvise. So I don't write music, they just play with what they feel. And I sing my songs, and we haven't got time for practices, so just come along and hear what happens. Yeah, it'll be great.
Join the adventure, yeah, amazing. Yeah. How can people find out more about both of you and your work, and potentially follow you and like everything and subscribe and all those things we have to do?
Do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
I will just say tonight I am going to bed and none of you are invited. So I'm not doing anything in the next few weeks or so, but I do have, I've got my debut poetry collection will be coming out with Cordite Books at some point in time, probably next year. My Instagram is at Rogue Dyke, and you can find it if you go to Emerging Writers Festival, it's tagged somewhere, you can find it. And my name is Alex Crease, and you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm not very good at messages, but I'm a nice person.
my website's jennyhickenbotham.info. I've got some cards if anyone wants to come up. I'll be hanging around for 10 minutes or as long as people want to talk to me. And Instagrams, it's just Jenny Hicken, Kinbotham. So it's the polite form of Hickenbotham.
Amazing. Yes, as you said, Alex, those links are linked to your profiles on the Emerging Writers website in connection to today's event. I would like everybody in the room... Oh, just to check in, Ruby, anything from anyone online that we might want to add in the last 2 minutes?
Just some really lovely feedback. People have really enjoyed this session and the video, the
work.
showing of works as well. So
Great.
It's been really lovely.
Thank you.
We haven't had any questions through yet, but I'll let you know.
Great. Well, I would just like to invite all those in the room, all those online, to show your love for the fabulous Alex and Jenny, and thank you both for today's conversation. Thanks. There's loads more happening through Emerging Writers Festival, so check out the website, see what else is happening, and get involved.
And thanks for getting up early and coming to listen and be part of this session.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks very much. Thank you.